Hey, Michael here. Hope you're doing well. I'm sitting in some woods here in some shade after some light exercise. Education and teaching in education. Teaching is teaching a subject, communicating a subject to another person. So, if we break that down, analyze that logically, see what the roots of that proposition are, you have to communicate the subject. Or let's say, start again. You have to communicate a subject to another person. Those things we got to understand if we're going to understand teaching properly. Teaching is not, or at least not good teaching, not teaching in any proper sense. Teaching is not standing in front of someone and talking or trying to have them learn to discover everything on their own, trying to have them do something that took human beings millennia. It's not possible. To teach well, as I say, you need to know your subject. Math, physics, chemistry, language, whatever it is. You need to be able to communicate the subject. So you need to know your subject from the ground up logically so you can teach it well. You need to know some grammar and some rhetoric. Teaching is not doing math in a desk alone in an office. You got to communicate that to someone else. So we got to study the rules of communication. That means grammar. One thing I'd recommend is studying like Rex Barks by Phyllis Davenport, a sentence diagramming book like that. Or let's see, there's another book. When I get home, I'll take a picture and I'll put a picture of that in this video. A thicker sentence diagramming book you could use. Maybe some rhetoric, something like that. We need to know how to communicate effectively and logically to other people. I mean, naturally, wouldn't you want someone doing that to you? And if if we're teachers, then we need to be masters of that. We don't need to master grammar, master English, master communication. We're not a grammarian, but we must know some basic grammar if we're going to communicate effectively. It's only little kids who say, "This is math classroom. Why do we have to do logic? This isn't English." That's so childish. We're human beings. We're talking to each other. We have to communicate. That means grammar, rhetoric, communication in general. Then we need to know logic to know our subject well and to communicate well. Logic is the basis behind it all. How you form a concept, if your concepts are correct, how concepts go together, how we generalize, how we use concepts in the real world, how they're connected, induction, integration, definition, concept formation. We need to know those things to some extent, not like a real philosopher, not like fake philosophers like unfortunately a lot of moderns are, but like a real philosopher, we need to know, they would know logic really well, especially if they're like a logician. They don't study instead the history of philosophy. But a teacher needs to know logic to some extent to be able to think well, to understand the subject, to understand communication, to be able to communicate well, to know how the subject fits together, what leads to what through the course of a student's or anybody's education and development. What's easier, harder, what's on the perceptual level and concrete, what's more general and more general, or we gotta also have to abstract away what's more specific. And then you need to know about the value of the subject. We're talking to another person, not a desk or a rock or a brick wall. A person is a living being, a rational animal. Consciousness is for the sake of movement, for the sake of doing something. Plato was wrong. Immanuel Kant was wrong. You look at reality. evolution, the nature of animals, the nature of consciousness, why we really think, not if we get away from the mistakes people made a long time ago before they knew about evolution, the survival role of reason, the survival role of consciousness, before people understood that, when they were still trying to figure out what the hell reason was, and we're just speculating on certain things. If we look at what it is, knowledge is for the sake of survival. Knowledge is not for the sake of knowledge. Okay? People want to know things to be able to survive more effectively and efficiently and enjoy life and love life, be good at it. So we need to know the value of our subject. Why is it important for a human being, a biological organism, an animal in a real world? It's all wrapped up in biology and ecology. So that's something we need to study as well. If we're going to be a good teacher. If we don't want to be, we want to be irresponsible, you want to corrupt students, okay, yeah, people are going to do what they're going to do. But to make the best of ourselves, our students, the culture, society, the future, we need to know our subject really well. We need to be able to communicate it effectively to biological organisms, human beings who live in are all wrapped up in an ecological world. So, know the subject really well. Know how logically how one concept leads to another, how we generalize. It's good to look at history to see how things developed. That helps you get into the order of knowledge better. How we started out with the basics in human history and then developed a science from there. And then you learn mistakes people make, and that's very good to know for students. We need to know communication, some grammar, rhetoric, communication in general, like the book, what is this, FBI agent, What Everybody Is Saying is a good book. I'll put a picture of that also. I forget the author right now. Then we need to know, okay, and some logic, like The Art of Reasoning is a good book. Maybe How We Know by Harry Binswanger. There's some others. But some of them might be too abstract, sophisticated at first, just like they were for me, for everybody. So we need to start off with something like The Art of Reasoning. And then we need to know about human life. The fact that we're a biological organism. Knowledge is for the sake of survival and movement, not some little like, we're not crazy things divorced from reality. We're not some kind of entity in a white jacket all wrapped up in a little room that has all kinds of stuff going through our head and we're divorced from reality and we can't do anything. We're rational animals moving through the world. We need to know how knowledge works, how we use it. We need to know something about biology, ecology. So teaching is communicating a subject to another human being, to another person. We break that down and then we can figure out what it is to be a really good teacher. That helps us, helps our students, helps make it a better society, and that's what we want. If you have any questions or you want some really deep training, any of that, get in touch. Shoot me some questions. Get in touch if you really want some really good training in can help you with grammar, logic, breaking down the logic of some physics or chemistry or math. Hope you have a good day and hope you enjoyed the video.